It's a great pleasure to host you today in our Schocken JTS Institute. My name is Shmuel Glick. I'm a professor of Jewish law and history of Jewish education and have the privilege running this institute for more than 30 years. Okay, this is the sign that we have to close our phone. So we're on time. Before starting with a brief story on the history of the Schocken Institute and the man behind it, let me first thank to our partners and the organizers of this conference. Without their hard work, we wouldn't have gathered here today, and we have a long list. I will start with our Israeli partner. Many thanks to Dr. Irene Aue-Ben-David, the director of Baeck Institute, Jerusalem. Irene, it was a pleasure to work with you to organize this conference. Toda rabah. Thanks to our partners from abroad, to Ulrich Rauf, the former director of the German Literature Archive, who made the entire project of Karl Wolfskehl as well as this conference possible. Thanks to Karl Albrecht, who kindly supported the project through the Elisen Foundation. Thanks to colleagues at the chair for the Jewish History of Culture at the Ludwig Maximilian University Munich, Michael Brenner, Philipp Lehart, Julia Schneiderwind. Okay, sorry. My pronunciation is not. And finally, thanks to the Research Foundation Marbach, Weimer, Wolf-Wentel. Special thanks to the Dreamers, Dr. Caroline Jessen from German Literature Archive, to Dani Hacker and Nama Kari and Baruch Yonin from our institute, for being the engine behind the dream of bringing together today scholars from Israel and abroad to this conference. By the way, Caroline, here is your book. I have to wish you Mazel Tov for your book, for your new book, and I think the Mazel Tov is on behalf of all of people that are sitting here in this hall. Good luck. Finally, thanks to the distinguished guests, people that are sitting here, participating in this conference. I'm happy to see here a representative from the Schocken Institute, Racheli Edelman, Hillel Schocken, that you will hear from him a lecture later this day. And now is the time to start a brief story on the history of the building. And the history of our institute begins with the founder, Salman Schocken, a German Jewish businessman and a publisher. He was born in 1877 in a traditional Jewish family in a small town named Margonin, near Posen, and here I don't have to mention in Germany. In other conferences, I would have to mention if it's in German, or in Prussian, or in Poland. As a young Jewish boy, he went to a cheder, a Jewish elementary school, and studied the Bible and some Hebrew for basic literacy. When he reached the age of 14, his parents did not let him pursue higher education, and he became an apprentice in a textile trade. As a young autodidact, he became keenly interested in German literature, in economic history, philosophy, art, and mysticism. When he was in the 20s, he began to build his own library by acquiring books, manuscripts, and first editions of German literature. Around 1907, at the age 30, while studying German mysticism, he came across Martin Buber's book, The Tales of Rabbi Nachman from Breslov. This was the first time he discovered Jewish mysticism. It was an eye-opening experience to be exposed to spiritual Judaism, which he didn't know as a child. Years later, in 1914, he wrote a letter to Martin Buber saying, "By reading your book on Rabbi Nachman several years ago, I became an alive Jew again." As a result of Buber's work, Schocken became more interested in Jewish culture and decided to strengthen his knowledge of Hebrew. At the end of 1915, Martin Buber introduced him to a young writer, Shmuel Yosef Agnon Shai Agnon, the well-known Jewish author who in 1966 would become the first Jewish author receiving on the Nobel Prize in Literature. Agnon, among others, helped him to curate his large Hebrew collection. Unlike other collectors, Schocken was not motivated only by the desire to grow his collection. He was guided by deep respect for the bundle of books in the back of the Wandering Jew. He saw these books as a homeland of Jewish people in the diaspora. His collection grew over the years and became the most important private collection of Jewish studies before the Second World War. You will hear more details later in the tour in our exhibition from Danny. Our exhibition is on books and people. Between 1933 and 1938, the collection was smuggled from Berlin in Jerusalem to Jerusalem and moved into this beautiful building designed by the famous architect Erich Mendelsohn in December 31, 1936. And more about the building in Mendelsohn you will hear from Professor Schocken in his lecture. On Saturday evening, December 26, 1936, before the furnishing here in this hall were completed, certain well-known VIPs from Tel Aviv and Jerusalem, such as the author Max Brod, Judah Leon, Magnus, the president of the Hebrew University, Shai Agnon, Professor Gershon Sholem, and Baeck Katzenelson, the philosopher of socialist Zionism, actress Hannah Rubina, Shneur Zalman Rubashov, who was the third president of Israel, and Rabbi Tzvi Yehuda Kook, the head of the Yeshivat Merkaz Harav. They all gathered here in this hall to mark a special event, the 50th birthday and 7th anniversary of the death of the well-known German Jewish philosopher Franz Rosenzweig. The theme of the gathering was the spiritual legacy of Franz Rosenzweig. Rosenzweig was, for Schocken, a model for a Jewish spiritual leader. For the Zalman Schocken, this first event held here was a realization of his vision and served as a model for future conferences which called scientific gatherings. In his opening remarks, he noted, I quote, "Although the building is not yet finished, we thought it proper to commence our work here on Rosenzweig's memorial anniversary. My hope is that this will be the first of many gatherings in this place." From 1936, this place serves as a research library and a home for two research institutes founded by Schocken: the Institute for Hebrew Poetry, headed by Chaim Brody, and the Institute for Jewish Mysticism, headed by Gershon Sholem. After his death in 1959, the Judaica collection was entrusted to the hands of the Jewish Theological Seminary. In 1961, the JTS established here the Institute for Jewish Research and renewed the tradition of extensive research in the Schocken Institute. In the last 30 years, in the past 30 years, especially in the last 10 years, the Institute is an active research institute in various fields of Jewish law. Today, this place is bustling. We hold seminars and colloquiums for doctoral students from various universities in Israel, scientific gatherings, open lectures to the Jerusalem public, conferences in collaboration with other academic institutions from Israel and abroad, and dozens of exhibitions based on the various treasures of our library. More than 80, please take a seat. More than 82 years have passed since the first session in this hall, and we continue each year to fulfill Schocken's will with scientific gatherings. I personally see in this conference one of the most important scientific gatherings that we held here in the past. I wish you all a pleasant and a fruitful conference. Bruchim Abayim. I'm pleased to invite our partner, Dr. Irene, to greet you for the conference.
Thank you very much, Shmuel. Dear guests, dear colleagues, in the name of the Leo Baeck Institute Jerusalem, I kindly welcome you to our conference, Material Transfer, Intellectual Transfer, Salman Schocken's Collections Between Germany and Israel. It's the aim of this conference for us to explore and address different aspects of the broad and important collections of Salman Schocken, his vast private collections of Hebrew and German books and manuscripts, as well as the products of the activity of the Schocken Publishing House in Berlin, which he managed to salvage to Palestine. The core interests for us are to understand the significance of the transfer of these collections from National Socialist Germany to Jerusalem and the importance of these material in different fields of knowledge of the emerging and developing academia in the Yishuv, as well as the new academic institutions and libraries. I'm very glad that both scholars who have been working on different aspects of Schocken's work in the past and know the collections in depth, as well as young scholars who combine these with questions of the transfer of knowledge and the meaning of the material history in this context, agreed to participate today and tomorrow and to come to Jerusalem. This conference, as Shmuel highlighted already, could not have been realized without Dr. Caroline Jessen from the German Literature Archive in Marbach, and I'm very grateful for the initiative as well as the generous support of the German Literature Archive in Marbach. Without this conference would not have been made possible. And I also would like very much to thank our colleagues from the Schocken Institute for Jewish Research, Professor Shmuel Glick, Nama Teitelbaum-Kari, and Dani Hacker for the very fruitful cooperation during the last months. And also Professor Michael Brenner and Dr. Philipp Lennart from the Chair of Jewish History and Culture at Munich University. My special thanks to my colleagues at the LBI in Jerusalem, especially to Galit Rand and Tamar Gutfeld, for their thoughtful and very helpful the help in organizing this event. And I wish us all a very fruitful, interesting conference. Toda rabba. And I would like now to invite Dr. Dietrich Hakelberg, the deputy head of the library in Marbach, for his greetings.
Ladies and gentlemen, friends and colleagues, it is my pleasure and privilege to welcome you today on behalf of the German Literature Archive Marbach to this international conference dealing with the transfer of Salman Schocken's unrivaled collections from Nazi Germany to Jerusalem. My name is Dietrich Hakelberg, and I'm deputy head of the library at the German Literature Archive in Marbach. Our library is substantially involved in a research project devoted to the legendary library of the exiled German Jewish writer Karl Wolfskehl, a collection partly preserved today in the Schocken Library in Jerusalem. Research on Karl Wolfskehl and his library was initiated by Caroline Jessen within the framework of the project Weiters Libraries under the auspices of the Marbach-Weimar-Wolfenbüttel Research Association, which unites the resources of 3 eminent German research and memory institutions. In addition, we have entered into a fruitful and inspiring collaboration with the Schocken Institute for Jewish Research in Jerusalem and the Department of Jewish History and Culture of Munich University, aimed at a virtual reconstruction of Wolfskehl's library, as well as furthering research into its historical and cultural contexts. This joint project and the present conference on the transfer of Salman Schocken's collections are results of this collaboration. I would like to take this opportunity to thank Baruch Yonin of the Schocken Library. His intimate knowledge of the library holdings has been essential for the painstaking provenance research and indexing in the Wolfskehl project. It was Salman Schocken himself who acquired the library of Karl Wolfskehl. In 1938, Schocken effected the conveyance of some 14,000 volumes from Berlin to Jerusalem, together with a part of the stock of his publishing house. Our conference also features Salman Schocken as an outstanding collector and bibliophile connoisseur. Many colleagues in Israel and Germany were involved in organizing and preparing this conference. Thanks are due to the organization committee led by Irene Aue-Ben-David of the Leo Baeck Institute, to Caroline Jessen in Marbach, Nama Teitelbaum-Kari and Daniel Hacker in Jerusalem, as well as to Philipp Lehnhardt in Munich for their successful planning and transnational coordination. We are very much indebted to Dr. Karl Albrecht, whose generous sponsorship made possible the collaboration project as a whole and this event in particular. And we are honored to have members of the Schocken family, Professor Hillel Schocken, Racheli Edelmann, and Amos Schocken among us. Last but not least, I would like to thank our hosts, Professor Shmuel Glick and the Schocken Institute for Jewish Research, as well as Professor Shmuel Feiner and Dr. Irene Aue-Ben-David of the Leo Baeck Institute for their kind and continuing support. Before handing over to the chair of our first session, Benjamin Balint, I would like to thank you all for participating in our conference on Salman Schocken's collections between Israel and Germany. I look forward to many inspiring papers and discussions. Thank you very much.